So we're going to move right along. Item number 2, citizen input. There will be only citizen input concerning the TSP, and that portion will be when we have during the open meeting when we have statements. So there will be no prior discussions on anything other than the TSP, and those will all be later after the open meeting. Item 3, consider approval of minutes. There are none. 4 is action items. 4.1 is Oakridge Transportation System Plan approval and recommendation to City Council to include amendments to Oakridge zoning and/or comprehensive plan. Commissioners, are there any conflict of interest ex parte contact? Hearing none, we will open the public meeting at this time. Ashley Ludwig from Kittleson Group will be giving a presentation.
Hi everyone, I'm Ashley Ludwig with Kittleson & Associates. We're the consulting firm that was working in conjunction with Angelo Planning Group.
I just looked at it earlier today.
To lead the development of this transportation system plan update for you. So tonight I'm going to talk for just a few minutes to give you an overview, a review of what the TSP is. For those of you that might not be familiar with it, a quick recap of the development process we've gone through over the last year and a half. An overview of what's in the plan, but I don't plan to spend a lot of time going through the entire plan in detail. There's quite a bit of information in there. It's a pretty big document. We've had quite a few public meetings and work sessions on this, but what I want to do is save bulk of my time to talk specifically about 2 particular projects that we have received most input on and are looking for some more clear direction from the Planning Commission and City Council as we finalize this plan. And then I'll close with talking a little bit about next steps. So to start with, what is a TSP? A TSP is your transportation system plan. It's meant to be a document that guides the 20-year transportation vision for the city. It's not limited to roadway. It's meant to look at all modes, pedestrian, bicycle, transit, roadway, air, and rail. It includes quite a bit of projects as well as policies and programmatic recommendations, although the project is really the meat of it. And it works to identify options for you to go after funding to pursue some of these future projects. And it's really meant to be flexible. So there's quite a bit in here, and they're prioritized by medium and low, as you'll see in a minute. But it's meant to be flexible to give the city the opportunity to modify those priorities and choose what projects to go after over time. So I think a key thing here is that this is a plan. It's not committing the city to complete any of the projects in this plan. But it is outlining the vision for the city and the projects that you think you may want to pursue in the future, which will help the city go after future funding opportunities that may arise 5 or 10 years down the road that we may not even know about today. So the project was developed over the last year and a half or so with a lot of input from our project.
How come there's no comments?
We have not reached the comment section yet. There will be comment.
So the Project Advisory Committee met 4 times over the course of developing this plan. You can see the members up on the presentation. It included Planning Commission members, police, business representatives, senior services representatives, school district representatives, and these this committee met, like I said, 4 times. Reviewed our technical documents as we went through the project. They provided input on the needs that we identified before we even started talking about solutions, and then they provided
Just started
as we started to develop those. We also had a joint work session with Planning Commission and Council that was held back in October of last fall. There were 3 public meetings held during the development of the plan, and those were held after the advisory committee meetings to give the public an opportunity to come and learn more about the project and provide input. We had one earlier on in the project where we presented the the needs that were identified for transportation, and then the second two focus specifically on the draft solutions that were developed. So since October, back in January, the city and ODOT held a work session that was specifically focused on Highway 58. That's been one of the projects from the draft plan that's had kind of the most feedback that we've received. So there was some additional feedback that came in during and after that work session. And then the initial hearing that was planned back in March was postponed after COVID happened. So as I go through tonight, there are a couple of places where I'm going to touch on a little bit of the feedback that was received during and after that January work session. So the adoption process this plan will go through. Today we're here at number 1, the Planning Commission hearing. Where this is going after today, we'll be looking to the Planning Commission to provide a recommendation to City Council, and that could be recommending adoption, or it could be recommending that we complete some modifications to the draft plan. And I can mention there are a couple of specific things that we're asking for feedback on tonight. After that, we will revise the draft plan one last time, or not one last time, but one more time before it goes to the City Council, so that they have one full, complete plan with all the revisions that you all recommend here tonight to adopt, and then they will have the final decision whether to adopt the plan as is or ask for some additional modifications. So I'm going to do a quick overview of what's in the draft plan. It's a little bit of a long document, but it was generally organized into 8 chapters, starting with an introduction and the goals and policies. And then chapters 3 through 7 are kind of the meat of the projects and policies and programs. These are the modal plans, one focused on roadway, one on safety, one on pedestrian and bicycle transit, and then the last one focuses on rail, air, bridge, marine, and pipeline. Chapter 8 is specific to transportation funding. So this pulls everything together and summarizes what the cost estimates for all of these will equate to, and summarizes some potential options for the city to look at to increase funding. There are some appendices that you'll find with the plan. Volume 1, which has the main plan itself, has a couple of appendices, including project prospectus sheets that you see on the screen. There's one per project, and that's meant to be something that you can go to if you just want all the information related to that particular project. So you can see where it is, what the cost was, and other projects that it might coordinate with. There's also an appendix that summarizes in detail the code audit and proposed code amendments, and then there's project cost estimates. Volume 2 is really it's a technical appendix that summarizes each of the technical analysis and memos that were completed during the development of the plan itself. So as I mentioned, section 2 is the goals and policies, and there are 6 general goals and policies in the plan: economic development, transportation system characteristics, mobility for all, transportation and land use planning, implementation, and safety. And these goals and policies were used to evaluate the projects that were developed during the course of the plan, and assist with ranking priorities into your high, medium, and low different rankings. I've mentioned a couple times, but the plan elements include projects, policies, programs, one pilot project, and some studies. There's some things that need some further evaluation to flesh out the details. And then each of the recommendations was prioritized based on the goals that we just saw on from section 2, as well as input that we received from the advisory committee and the public. And that results in a summary that you see here, with about just under $10 million worth of high priority projects over the next 20 years, just over $2 million in medium, and then 15 million of low priority. And so again, this is looking out over the next 20 years. This is just an example of one of the modal plan figures and maps that you'll find in the plan. This is from the roadway plan, figure 3-17. So you can see that the projects are color coded based on priority, high, medium, and low priority. And each map has a table in the plan that corresponds to this, where you can find additional information, which would be the project description and the cost estimate that goes along with each of these projects.
Can you make that a little bigger? I mean,
So this is really meant, we're not really going into detail with it tonight, but it's really meant to point you to figure 317 in the plan to look at it in more detail along with all the other modal plan figures. So some of the key feedback that we did receive after the January work session that ODOT and the city held, there was a general concern about the condition of local streets. And so we wanted to make sure that we drew attention to the fact that there are 14 projects in the roadway plan that are specifically focused on repaving and upgrading your local city streets and improving the condition of those roads. And also there's a project that's more of a programmatic recommendation, PVU-1, that recommends that the city develop a program that would evaluate, develop a program for evaluating and maintaining its streets. That would give you more clear process for prioritizing which roads need improvement and better tracking and sharing with the public what's being done in that regard. And the other thing that we did want to mention is that the city has the ultimate decision in how these projects are actually implemented. So like I mentioned earlier, this isn't obligating the city to go out and complete project 1, 2, and 3 in that order. It's meant to be flexible. So if there is a project that rises to the top in terms of higher priority over time, that is okay and expected to happen. Another question or comment that we generally received after the January work session was related to funding. And so we wanted to just highlight here that there is section 8 of the last chapter of the plan itself. It focuses on funding for the projects. And again, this is not obligating the city to, you're not committing to funding these $25 million worth of projects over the next 20 years. It's giving you the opportunity to pursue funding for them if desired in the future. And it is important that they are documented, these plans are documented in your plan so that you have the ability to go after grants that may arise in the future. And the funding chapter identifies some potential options for you to look for additional funding sources for implementation beyond just grants. It also talks about some local funding sources as well. So this is a summary of the high, medium, and low priority total cost estimates in the plan. This breaks it down just by roadway, safety, pedestrian, bicycle, transit, rail, and air, and implementation. So you can see the breakdown by mode. The funding section, like I mentioned, identifies some potential options for achieving some additional local funding sources. And there are four particular local funding sources that are highlighted in the plan as potential ones for Oakridge to consider to raise more local funds. And that would be an increase in gas tax, general fund revenue, a local bond, or private developers through SDCs. So this was, these four were developed based on some input we received from the committee during the project. The next slide shows an example of why developing some additional local funding sources can be very important and can be really go far to help you implement some of these projects. A lot of times the grant opportunities that you may be interested in pursuing require a local match. They require the local jurisdiction to put forth a certain percentage of the total grant amount. So as an example, if you're looking at increasing fuel tax by say 5 cents and generating about $100,000 a year, if you took that and applied it towards as a 10% match for a grant, you potentially have the option of generating or completing up to $1 million project. So it can really be stretched to go a long way. And then I did want to mention that there are some additional text edits that are included, I believe, in the staff report based on some of the written feedbacks and comments that we got, and those will be incorporated prior to the city council hearing as well. And then on the project website, you'll also see that one of the appendices is a memo summarizing the comprehensive plan and ordinance amendments. So the comprehensive plan will be amended. It will adopt the TSP as the transportation element of the comprehensive plan. And then there's also proposed revisions to the land division ordinance and zoning ordinance. And these are Some of it is to comply with the statewide transportation planning rule, and some of it is to adopt things like your the roadway cross-section standards that are included in the transportation system plan, as well as to recommend that future development be required to complete traffic impact studies if they're over a certain threshold, so they can evaluate their impact on the system before they come in. So that's a quick overview of what's in the draft plan. I'm going to spend the next few slides talking about the two particular projects that we've received the most feedback on, and a lot of it has been very conflicting. And so we would like, this is where we're really looking for input from the Planning Commission as we move into City Council hearing as well. So those two projects that we're going to talk more about tonight are the First Street Corridor Refinement Plan and the Highway 58 reconfiguration. So based on direction we received from this group tonight, we'll be planning to make revisions to the draft plan, and then the City Council will be asked these same two questions and ultimately have the final decision and what gets included in the plan. So for each of these, we're going to start by talking about what were the issues that we identified through the needs analysis and based on public input. And then we're going to talk about the two options that we've laid out in the staff report that we would like input on moving forward. So for East First Street, the main issues that we heard were safety concerns related to the angled parking that exists in the uptown area and concern about the limited visibility that you have, particularly when backing out of the angled parking. The general lack of bicycle infrastructure along First Street and the lack of a complete network east-west between the uptown area, particularly as we get down and connect to the schools as well. And the desire for enhanced pedestrian crossings along First Street as well. So the two options that we've summarized based on the input that we've heard from the last few meetings, the full corridor refinement plan, which is currently proposed in the draft TSP, discussion starts on page 40. And then the second option would be a scaled back version of that would look at just reconfiguring the parking. And so we'll talk a little bit more about what those two mean. So the first option will be the corridor refinement project. Like I said, this is currently proposed in the draft plan. This would include reconfiguring the angled parking into parallel parking. And it would also include adding bicycle lanes along the corridor because you would have the extra width available on the pavement to add those bicycle lanes. This project does address all the issues that are identified. It addresses the safety concern by creating the parallel parking. It creates the opportunity to provide bicycle connectivity along First Street and to connect to the school. And it also allows for the opportunity to enhance pedestrian crossings with bulb outs to increase pedestrian visibility along the corridor. It does have the greatest impact on the reducing the number of parking spaces along the corridor itself. By converting the angle to parallel, you do lose a few spaces, and then this option does require the removal of parking on one side on sections outside of uptown. So there's a figure 318 in the draft plan that visually summarizes the cross section. You can see within the uptown area, you would have parallel parking on both sides. That's the yellow area on the screen. You would have parallel parking on both sides of the road and bike lanes on both sides of the road. And then the red area from Crestview towards downtown, towards uptown, this would have parking on one side of the road and bike lanes on both sides. The second option would be to simply reconfigure parking from angled parking to parallel parking. This would not provide the space to create bike lanes throughout the entire corridor. This does address the safety concerns that are associated with angled parking. As I mentioned, it does not address the bicycle connectivity, and it has a smaller impact on the number of parking spaces that are reduced. Rather than losing parking on one side of the road, you are simply reconfiguring the angled parking to parallel parking. So what we're asking for tonight from the Planning Commission is, as you contemplate tonight and hear the discussions and the comments, we would like to hear whether option 1, full reconfiguration, or option 2, with the simple parking reconfiguration are preferred. The second project that we've heard quite a bit of feedback on and would like some more direction tonight is Highway 58. So Highway 58 has several issues that were identified during the analysis as well as through public comment. The speed data that we had showed that vehicle travel speeds are in excess of the posted speed limit, 5 to 6 miles per hour above on average. Some are higher. The safety review of reported crashes over the 5-year period that we did evaluate showed that there were 3 pedestrian and bicycle related crashes along the corridor. And overall, almost half of the crashes that are occurring in the city happened along the corridor, 44%. There's a lack of complete connected sidewalks. There's short segments throughout on Highway 58, and there are no bike lanes along Highway 58. And the reason that we've flagged this as being a critical issue is that Highway 58 is one of the few complete east-west connections available through the city for someone that wants to go from one side to the other. It also creates a barrier for pedestrians, bicyclists, and vehicles looking to try to cross north to south as well. And the operations analysis that was completed revealed that there's adequate capacity looking out at our 20-year forecast at traffic volume projections in 2040. So there's 2 options that we've summarized tonight that we would like input on from the group again. The first one is currently shown in the draft plan, and this is the road reconfiguration. The second one would be looking at limited speed management treatments and sidewalk infill. So the first option is the road reconfiguration. The discussion on this in the draft plan starts on page 42. This would involve reconfiguring the roadway, the highway through town, down to 1 travel lane in each direction and a center 2-way left turn lane. This would include the speed feedback signs as well to help with speed reduction. And it could be implemented as a pilot project, which is something that we have had quite a bit of discussion about in terms of doing a temporary installation of it to see how it functions before it actually gets built and reconstructed. This option addresses each of the issues identified. It encourages slower travel speeds by reducing the cross-section width. It also reduces that second travel lane in each direction that we heard from quite a few people is often used as a passing lane in Oakridge. It reduces the width that pedestrians and bicyclists have to cross, as well as vehicles, when crossing the road, and it provides the space that could be used for pedestrian refuge island. That center turn lane also provides an operational benefit for the sections that currently don't have a center turn lane. It provides the space for vehicles to pull out of the travel lane as they wait to complete their left turn as well. It also minimizes any extra width that would be needed if the city were to decide to complete sidewalks or bicycle lanes in the future by reallocating some of the existing pavement width from the travel lane to sidewalks and bicycle lanes. So this is a summary of what's currently shown in the draft plan, and this is a rendering showing a potential before and after. The rendering up here shows existing 4-lane section with no center turn lane, and what that might look like if it were reconfigured to a 3-lane cross section that would have 1 travel lane in each direction with a center turn lane, bicycle lanes, and sidewalks. There's kind of a minimum reconfiguration, which you see in the middle picture on the screen here, and that would be areas where we know what gets constrained throughout the corridor. You would have curb-tight sidewalks up against the bicycle lane. And then in locations where additional width exists, there could be a landscape buffer between the sidewalk and the bicycle lane as well. The cross-section could range from 65 feet to 74 feet wide. And then if this project were to be recommended to move forward, like I mentioned, it could be implemented through a pilot project to start with. And then if it were to move forward, businesses and property owners would be contacted and work with ODOT during the design process. Option 2 would be a limited speed management treatment option. So this option would not involve changing the roadway cross-section in terms of the number of travel lanes. That would stay as is. This would include speed feedback signs on both ends of town, which would be included in the other option as well. This could include policy changes such as enhanced enforcement along the corridor. And then sidewalk infill would be evaluated to determine where it might be feasible to do within existing right-of-way. So this option would, we do expect it would have some impact on reducing vehicle travel speeds with the speed feedback signs and with the enforcement. However, there would still continue to be 2 lanes in each direction that would continue to allow drivers to use the second lane as a passing lane within the city if they chose to do so. This would not make any improvements to bicycle connectivity along the highway. There would be no width to add bicycle lanes, and it doesn't allow for the addition of more pedestrian refuge islands throughout some of the 4-lane sections. So sidewalk infill options, as I said, could be evaluated for where they may be possible, but they would be more limited based on existing right-of-way. So if sidewalk and bicycle lanes were to be pursued in the future by the city, additional widening would be required beyond the roadway's existing footprint, which would have much greater impact on the surrounding properties. So those are the 2 options that we would like some guidance on tonight in terms of whether option 1 with full reconfiguration or option 2 with limited speed management treatments are preferred. So just to recap before I close out here, the Planning Commission hearing tonight, after this, we're looking for guidance from the Planning Commission in terms of whether to move forward recommending adoption as is or recommend with modifications. In particular, for guidance on these 2 projects. And then we will revise the plan into a final draft plan that will go to the City Council for their adoption. And they will have, again, the same option to provide input on the plan, any of the plan, or in particular those 2 projects. And then we will finalize it one last time after the City Council's input. So that's everything I had planned to walk through tonight. There is a project website if you would like to access the draft plan online, and then and my contact info is up here as well. Thank you, Rick.
Thank you, Ms. Ludwig. Jackie, can you give us take a roll call, please?
Yes, I will. Commissioner Custer,
Here.
Commissioner Spleedoff, Commissioner Baker,
He's absent.
Commissioner Partain. Did she say here?
Yes, she's here.
Okay. Commissioner Hoag,
Here.
Commissioner Gobelman,
Here.
Commissioner Weimholt.
Here.
Thank you.
At this juncture, I will read a portion of the Planning Commission staff report. The request is to approval of proposed actions pertaining to adoption of the 2020 Oakridge Transportation System Plan for the TSP. Number 1, to provide direction on how the TSP will address conflicting comments regarding the following topics. A, First Street Corridor. B, Highway 58 corridor. 2, recommendation of adoption of the 2020 Oakridge Transportation System Plan with edits provided. 3, adoption of the comprehensive plan text amendments to amend the goals and policies for transportation elements and the appendix. Number 4, adoption of text amendments to the City of Oakridge Zoning Code Ordinance number 875 and the Land Division Ordinance number 8805. Background: the City of Oakridge adopted its current TSP in December of 2000. This latest planning effort is a comprehensive update to ensure that the transportation system supports community and economic goals of the city. The updated TSP will support the implementation of the city's comprehensive plan and statewide planning goals by developing a transportation system for all modes that will support existing residents and businesses and planned residential, commercial, and industrial growth. The City of Oakridge TSP is a long-range plan that sets the vision for the city's transportation system, facilities, and services to meet state, regional, and local needs for the next 20 years. The purpose of the TSP update is to address growth in Oakridge, as well as regulatory changes that have occurred since adoption of the city's previous TSP. Within the proposed TSP will be proposed amendments to the City of Oakridge Land Use Development Codes, and for the TSP to be adopted as the transportation elements of the comprehensive plan. The overall principles of the TSP are to assist in meeting the following goals. Goal 1, economic development. Goal 2, transportation system characteristics. Goal 3, mobility for all. Goal 4, transportation and land use planning. Goal 5, plan implementation. Goal 6, safety. The proposed 2019 TSP will be the transportation element of the city's comprehensive plan and prepares Oakridge for addressing transportation needs within its urban growth boundaries through the year 2040. This plan will be used by the city to make strategic decisions about transportation system investments and will be instrumental in supporting grant applications to fund future projects. The plan evaluates the current transportation system and outlines policies and projects that are important to protecting and enhancing the quality of life in Oakridge. At this time, we are prepared to take statements, and we will start with statements. Before I say that, I'd like to say we're here to listen to your statements. So there's not going to be a bantering back and forth answering questions. That's kind of happened in all the public meetings. So what we're looking for tonight is your statements, and if you could be kind of brief. And we need you to come up to the podium here. So if there are statements in favor, please line up by the podium over here and we'll take you as you come. Statements in favor.
So I'll go ahead and start. We have reading an email that came in today. A statement in favor from Dee and Frank Sidwell, 76403 Thatcher Lane. Hello, I'm writing because I may not be able to attend tonight's meeting and I want to let the commission know of my views on the proposed changes to Highway 58. My husband and I built a house at the end of Thatcher Lane almost 2 years ago. Before that, we lived in Westford for 18 years. So we've lived in the area for 20 years. Both of us are strongly supportive of narrowing the highway to 2 opposing lanes with a turning lane, a bike lane, and sidewalks on both sides of the road. I'm a runner and we both ride bikes or walk around the town as much as possible. This is pretty dangerous on Highway 58. The sidewalks end on both sides at awkward places which forces pedestrians to cross the street or walk on the shoulder. I have seen people on crutches and wheelchairs attempting to cross the highway at the west end of town. It is simply too far from there to the only safe crosswalk. So everyone just does it. There are also issues getting in and out of some businesses parking lots. These are the safety issues that we need to address when the highway work is done. The other issues are aesthetics and noise. The highway frontage is very unsightly in many ways. When the road is narrowed, hopefully the sidewalk areas could have planters and benches. I'm hopeful that the businesses will do better when our town isn't viewed as a passing lane. Maybe property owners will take more pride in their buildings they own. Lastly, the noise on Highway 58, so many transfer trucks is a real nuisance, and I'm also hopeful that these changes will encourage truckers to seek other routes, and since they don't really bring us anything but air pollution and noise, that would be a good thing. So again, if there's any public comments in favor, feel free to come on up.
No other statements in favor. We will go to statements in opposition.
1 second real quick, if you don't mind. Is there anybody on the Zoom platform that would like to have a statement in favor? If so, please go and unmute yourself or put a message in the chat, and then I will call on you. Is there anybody on the Zoom platform that would like to make a comment?
Yes, hello. This is Linda Kammerer, and Gary Carl is also here with me watching, and he would like to make a comment.
Go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
This is Gary Carl speaking. I live at 48175 East 1st Street here in Oakridge. Linda and I own two properties directly on Highway 58, and I am strongly in favor of proposition number 1 submitted to the Planning Commission. And I just wanted to let you know that as a business owner and property owner in Oakridge, I strongly support proposition 1 or option 1 for the improvement of Highway 58. Thank you.
You have unmuted. Is there anybody else with statements in favor? Trudy, would you like to make a statement? I see your name in the chat.
Did I unmute?
You are unmuted.
I have, I had a decision at one point in time, and now I find myself on the fence because I agree with a lot of what you read in that letter. And the fact that the individuals that are in those mobile chairs and crutches and canes, the walking on Highway 58 is, it's treacherous and it's dangerous. And I think that option 1 with the, is that the narrowing of the lanes or?
Yes.
Yes, okay, so I've had, and I hate to keep bringing this up, but since my daughter passed and going out Highway 58 in the other direction, there's multiple passing lanes that I come to just to get to Warner Creek Road, where she passed. So I'm kind of not buying the excuse that people are speeding so they can race each other to get to the top of the mountain or get ahead of each other first when they're coming through town. I think it's just blatant disrespect that people are traveling through that space. And now I'm leaning more toward the reconfiguration due to that. New observation. Thank you.
So before you go, Trudy, could we get your full name and address, please?
Oh, Trudy Hammond, 47752 Berry Street. I apologize. I know that's the routine.
That's quite all right. So, and I see a Aaron Stryker. Would you like to make a comment, or if so, go ahead and unmute yourself and feel free. Hearing none. Okay. Last time, is there anybody on the Zoom platform that'd like to make a comment before we move along? In favor? All right.
Okay, hearing none. We're moving to statements in opposition.
And again, I have a statement of opposition I would like to read.
Hold on just 1 second. We'll start with the city planner here.
All right. All right, this is from Marshall Hall at 47706 West 2nd Street, Oakridge, Oregon, 97463. The City of Oakridge Planning Commission testimony for hearing on June 16th, 2020. The transportation system proposal looks nice online. However, the reduction of Highway 58 to only 2 lanes is impractical. How can we justify it when we have over 4,000 trucks passing through daily on this freight corridor, along with the tourists and local traffic? This will cause traffic congestion that will hamper the residents here from getting in and out of our local businesses. I fear that residents will use other local streets as through streets, trying to avoid Highway 58 congestion and make former quiet neighborhoods noisy and not safe for children playing. Drivers passing through Oakridge will not want to get off the highway and visit our local businesses because it will be such an inconvenience to get back on the road. The increase in traffic will cause many complaints to the state of Oregon. I suspect that they will divert the highway around Oakridge. This could devastate our economy. Why not try an experiment for a month or 2 weeks, see how Oakridge residents like having a 2-lane highway before investing in the project. put up construction cones blocking the right lanes. So we only have 2 lanes with the center turn lane. This would give us an accurate way to see if, for ourselves, if this would be good for our town. When I moved here over 29 years ago, I saw that having a 4-lane highway was an asset to the community, making it convenient for the residents to go about their business. Respectfully submitted, Marcia Hall.
All right, other statements in opposition?
Dennis Patterson, 47871 West First Street. We'll start with the bike lanes on First Street. My wife and I ride our bikes down First Street 4 or 5 times a week, weather permitting, and we never have a problem with having to dodge cars or have cars dodge us. Everybody lives and let lives, and we've been doing it for years. I really can't see spending $50,000 or $60,000 to strike bike lanes down First Street to solve a problem that doesn't exist. Now to Highway 58. I feel confident stating that I speak for the majority of voters in this town. I think about 94% of them, when I say that we are sick and tired of ODOT, Kittleson, the Planning Commission, and City Council trying to shove the narrowing of 58 down our throats. We don't want it, we don't need it. The whole concept is built around multimodal transportation. Now that might have been a good idea for the urban set, but out here in the country, we need our cars. You're not going to see too many senior citizens hobbling along on skateboards or scooters or bicycles to get to the bus stand. We need our cars to get to the doctor, pharmacist. We don't need delays. We don't need congestion. The Kittleson folks, and I think too, say, oh, it only adds a few seconds, a few minutes, whatever. You're a senior citizen trying to make it to the pharmacist, and you're not sure your diaper's going to hold long enough. Those seconds seem like hours. We need cars. And this was my whole statement before COVID came into town. Now with the COVID-19, they're not saying take a bus down to get tested. They're saying show up in your car and we'll test you out your car window. We, especially in the rural community, where we've got fires, where we've got snowstorms, where we've got windstorms, we are car oriented. There's a reason for that. We can't depend on anything else. So I say anything that impedes the flow of cars, like narrowing the 58, is a bad idea. It already works fine. Truck traffic, city traffic can coexist on the same road. Ooh, it's hard to do this thing. Leave it as it is. For that, I recommend rejecting the Kittleson plan and readopting the 2000 plan, since it doesn't have that Highway 58 narrowing aspect in it. There's no reason we have to adopt the Kittleson plan. It's not etched in stone. We can readopt the plan we're under right this second. Finally, I'll throw out a bonus. I have an answer. The main question everybody wants answered is, how do we keep people to obey the speed limit on Highway 58? Easy. The police department has several black and white cruisers sitting in their yard that are pretty much done for. Put one at each end of town, take an old coffee can or whatever, flat black spray paint on a can, hang it on there so it looks like a radar element. One at each end of town, be like a scarecrow. It won't stop the locals, they'll be wise to it. After a while, the truckers will be wise to it. But the tourists, And well, look at them, whoop, drop their speed immediately. Thank you.
Other statements in opposition?
Well, I wasn't coming here planning to speak tonight, but my name is Barbara Phipps, and I have the Dairy Queen on Highway 58. My main concern with any changes that you make is I hope you put in a lot of traffic signals. That will definitely slow down your traffic. But have you ever been to the Dairy Queen on a holiday? I have been told it looks like the sinking of the Titanic with all of the boats, and then there's also all the trailers. And it's going to be the biggest traffic jam you have ever seen for them trying to get back on the highway. It's even on the weekends, not just holidays. I am against this. I don't see any need for it, even though I have a sidewalk in front of my store. I'm in total agreement with Marcia. She said it very well. And once again, also, while I'm thinking about it, the hardware department is going to have, any truck that delivers any goods is going to have to go all the way up and turn around because they won't be able to turn in to the hardware. If you put that divider down the middle, you know, up there where it goes into no more passing lanes. So that's about all I wanted to say is I hope you have a lot of traffic signals in your plan because you are going to need them. Thank you.
Any other statements in opposition? Did we get Barbara's address?
No, you didn't.
Excuse me, Barb. Could we get your address real quick? My apologies. We skipped that part.
47720 Highway 58.
Thank you very much.
58 among for up to 47815 and beyond, all belongs to me. With that being said, your proposals.
Mildred, can you get up to the microphone there because these people can't hear you?
I understand what you're up against, and I understand we need some better sidewalks here and there down through town. There's no doubt about that. For pedestrians to walk to and from, like mine, the state didn't put any in, they used mine, which is off the highway. But, you know, either here or there, they can put in a second set if they wanted to, but it's a waste of money. But, so they use mine. That is fine and dandy. As far as the bike lanes, I believe wholeheartedly that if they were over town and through 2nd Street and they come down through Jasper and 2nd Street, they could come up School Street, get to any business that they want to go to and over the viaduct, and there wouldn't have to be bike lanes on Highway 58 because there are very few bicycles up and down the highway. There are more pedestrians and chairs and walkers and that kind of thing than there are bicycles up and down the highway. That being said, you're going to create a real problem with all of our traffic that goes through here with the big trucks and things. We're going to have a lot of accidents, a lot of people getting hit or killed, unfortunately, which I feel is, you know, kind of one of them things that's just going to happen. You see it happening anyway, all over Eugene and Springfield. Oakridge is not going to be any exception where this is a truck route. And we have a lot of big trucks that go through. On top of that, I feel that the bicycles could get to anywhere they want to go without using Highway 58 if they choose to. In closing, I don't see your option 2 working at all. If you leave 5 lanes, there is no additional property. If you're taking 14 feet off each side of the highway, there is no way that any business up and down Highway 58 is going to be able to stand that. And I don't care which one you're looking at. There is no way you can take 14 feet off of those people along Highway 58 with 5 lanes. You're going to get right in the fronts of their buildings, and all these new buildings we just got and people coming in, you're going to ruin their businesses. They're going to be gone. And it's
Yeah, you're gonna ruin their businesses.
all going to be just without, or they're going to be moving out, which we've had a lot of losing the mills. And if you've been here over the years, 35 years ago, we went through this all again. That's why they widened it. I was part of that when my dad was alive and we had the businesses. That was the reason they widened Highway 58. Because of all the traffic that was going through here, and it was becoming a real danger. What are you going to do with all those people? Slow them down. If we can slow them down and offset stoplights at the main intersections, which will slow this traffic down through town. Absolutely. If you put one at Second, you put one at, instead of what we've got just a light for pedestrians, if you put one somewhere in our corridor, and then one at Jasper, and we've got already one at Crestview, and if you put one at the top of the hill, you're going to slow these people all down that's going through Oakridge way too fast. And every one of them nearly are doing 50 miles an hour. They're not doing 35, and there's no way to stop it. We don't have enough police force or anything else to stop them people from going as fast as they do through this town until you put some lights in to stop it. That's the only thing. I don't believe otherwise.
That's the lady that owns the Dairy Queen.
And what are you going to do when you get somebody that's slow and you get somebody wanting to get on through town in a hurry? You're going to have a problem, and they're going to be right in the rear of one another. And then what are you going to do? You're going to have more accidents. You're going to have getting more people hurt, and it just continues. So I don't think option 2 is going to work very well to take 14 feet from people on both sides. It ain't going to happen. Just isn't going to happen. And kill the town. You might as well let everybody move out. Option 1, to limit it down to 1 lane both ways and put bicycle lanes in and sidewalks. I'd much rather see you put new sidewalks in and leave the lanes the way they are and put the bicycles out around in the secondary areas to make it work for them. That's all I have to say. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Any other statements in opposition?
I just have a comment that I just thought of, like sometimes, if I need. You asked about the emergency vehicles, if we were to go to 2 lanes. Thank you. I just thought of something that when my husband was alive, we talked about these things, and I've been rather busy, but what about the emergency vehicles? If it's just 2 lanes and it's bumper to bumper, which I see a lot, especially during the summer on the weekends, and that's usually when the most accidents are. So I just wondered how that would affect your emergency vehicles. Thank you.
Still open for statements in opposition.
Hello, my name is Seema. I'm fairly new. This is my 2nd summer here. I come from a place with a lot more noise, a lot more traffic, a lot more everything. And I came to this little place and basically fell in love with it. It reminds you of Thomas the Train, the times with, and hearing the trains at 4 a.m. There's not too much.
Excuse me, Seema, before you continue, can you give us your full name and address?
Seema Lavelle Beers, and I live up on East 3rd, West Oak,
Address.
48417.
Thank you.
There's not too much to change here. And in an attempt to modernize and bring younger people in, you are going to lose the charm of this wonderful, cute little, beautiful place. And that's something that me, as somebody who just got here, and you guys are really wonderful people, and everything, I couldn't stay in Eugene. They're phony. And I'm a New Yorker, and the thing about a New Yorker, we can see a phony a mile away. But you guys are genuine. Like I said, I fell in love with this place. I run from the wasp, I'm planting food. I watched the mist, and it's really very wonderful. Yes, we do need to make for safety, but the thing down the center of 58, that's not gonna work, because most businesses that you have to go to, you gotta go from here, then you gotta go down a little bit, you need to go to the hardware store, and then you need to go into the Rays. It's not really going to work. What we need is maybe paving, straightening it out, make it not so, and you know, with clear markings. The idea about the put the faults, they do that in New York all the time. They put a dummy in the driver's seat. That's what they do. They put a dummy in the driver's seat. People see it, and they instantly slow down, instantly. So, but please don't, you know, you guys don't let a private corporation come in here and disrupt and make this place that it shouldn't be. This place is unique, and it needs to stay that way. That's all. Thank you.
Statements in opposition still.
Oh, sorry.
Hearing none.
So is there anybody on the Zoom platform that would like to make a statement in opposition? If so, please unmute yourself and go ahead, or put a message in the chat and I will call you. One more time, is there anybody on Zoom that would like to make a statement in opposition? Okay, Rosemary, raise her hand. Rosemary, Patrick, go ahead.
Oh, it's not working.
We hear you.
It's working?
Yes.
I wasn't in opposition, I'm sorry. I just want to say I oppose the DOT plan. Sorry, that was not in opposition to the last participant.
No, not in opposition to the last participant, but to the plan. Could we get your full name and address, please?
Thank you. Rosemary Patrick, 48373 7th Street, Oakridge, Oregon, 97643. Thank you.
Was that the last of your comment, Ms. Patrick?
I oppose the plan. Anytime this happens, it destroys a small town. Faster traffic is never the answer. The turnabouts cause chaos. And I do not like the ODOT land grab. I do not consent. That's my comment. Thank you.
Thank you.
So anybody else on the Zoom platform that would like to make a comment in opposition? Hearing none?
Hearing none, we'll go to statements in general.
I do have a statement in general. Alrighty, statement from Wayne A. Hall at 48227 Y Drive, Oakridge, Oregon, 97463. To the City of Oakridge Planning Commission, testimony for the hearing on June 16th, 2020. I understand that you plan to reduce the travel lanes of Highway 58 from 4 to 2. This part of the transportation system plan, which I have read and support to be to a degree. Yes, improving the road is a good thing, but when it comes to lane reduction of the lifeblood of Oakridge, which is our Highway 58, I cannot fight in favor of it. I commute to work every day using Highway 58. How important it is for Oakridge residents. I would like to remind everyone here that 58 used to be a 2-lane road. It wasn't until the state threatened to construct a detour bypassing the town that Oakridge expanded it to 4 lanes. We are now considering something that could cripple our already struggling businesses. Highway 58 is not just a road, it is a freight line. About 4,000 trucks pass through daily, and most of our tourist industry comes from by means of the highway. Let's face it, Oakridge is basically a pit stop for highway travelers, both commercial and tourists. Do we really want semi-trucks, campers, RVs, and everyday travelers bumper to bumper? That is what will happen if this plan goes through. But wait, the worst is yet to come. The state might step in and build a detour that might reduce our economy to that of a ghost town. I also understand that some of you desire to improve the road for cyclists and pedestrians. That's fine. There are many side roads that could improve, but leave our highway alone. This is not down to New Eugene, where the sidewalks and bike lanes are crowded. As for pedestrians, I understand that the crossing of the highway can be dangerous, so I propose that a pedestrian overpass be constructed over Highway 58. The locality is up to public discussion, but I must insist that having a pedestrian bridge, although costly, will be a better use of grant money rather than hampering traffic by reducing the travel lanes. In closing, I'd like to remind us all of this fact. It was a railroad that first put Oakridge on the map, and is a highway that will keep it on the map. So please leave our highway alone. Thank you, Wayne A. Hall.
Any other statements in general? Check with the Zoomers.
Any statements in general from the Zoom platform? If so, please go ahead and unmute yourself. Any statements on the Zoom platform? Please feel free to mute or type in the chat box. Hearing none.
Hearing none, at this time we will close the public hearing, and the city planner we are moving subsection I up above H, so city planner will read the findings of fact.
Alrighty. So I apologize, everybody. This is going to be pretty lengthy, but I might as well just jump in. So the finding of facts is basically the facts that the planning commission are supposed to use to weigh their decisions for tonight's public hearing. One thing I would like to comment on, though, is I do sense some confusion. This proposal does not include a median down the highway, for one. I just wanted to make that point clear, because median, yes, while one did exist quite a few years ago, this one is not that. But moving on. So the finding of facts: the following statewide planning goals have been considered by the city of Oakridge for adoption for the above request. Statewide planning goal number 1 is citizen involvement. Findings: this application complies with citizen involvement program included in the city's acknowledged comprehensive plan and City of Oakridge zoning ordinance, which is consistent with statewide planning goal number 1. The planning commission and the city council will hold hearings on the proposal prior to adopting the TSP and proposed amendments. Notices of the proposal and hearings was published.
The chat is disabled.
Excuse me?
The chat is disabled.
Yes. We are no longer in a public comment section, so if you're on Zoom, please mute yourself. Sorry. All right, where was I? Okay, so notice of the proposed hearing was published in the Dead Man Echo on March 5th, 2020, mailed to citizens on February 27th. The proposal was submitted to the Department of Lands Conservation and Development on September 9th, 2019, at least 35 days in advance of the first public hearing, and due to COVID, things were postponed until today being our first public hearing. A project advisory committee was formed and comprised of city council members, planning commission members, local residents, businesses, and school representatives. The PAC reviewed and commented on each technical memorandum and met the project team 4 times at key stages during development. 3 open house public events and 2 joint planning commission / city council work sessions and 1 planning commission work session took place. And as shown, the citizen involvement action complies with statewide planning goal number 1. Land use planning goal number 2 is land use planning. And the findings are the proposal is to adopt a 2019 transportation system plan and to amend the comprehensive plan and Oakridge, City of Oakridge zoning ordinance and land division ordinance. It is consistent with the city's regulations regarding legislative land use decisions. Legislative decisions first require a planning commission recommendation to city council, which then makes a decision based on the stated findings. The planning commission and city council hearings are open to the public. The planning commission hearing was scheduled for March 17th, and a city council public hearing will be held, was to be held in April. My apologies, that was not updated from the after COVID. So state planning goal number 9 is economic development. The findings, this is also goal number 2 of our transportation system plan, and that's to promote efficient travel that provides access to goods, services, and employment to meet the daily needs of all users, as well as to local regional activity centers. And the goal is to develop a transportation system that facilitates economic activities and draws businesses to the area. These goals support economic development and land use and transportation decision-making. Multiple projects have been identified and prioritized which seek to improve intersections, roadways, freight movement, sidewalks, and bicycle facilities near employment centers. The solutions recommended through the TSP were selected by converting TSP policies to evaluation criteria used for screening and prioritizing TSP actions. Street standards have been incorporated into the TSP, which identify the design characteristics needed to meet the function and demand for each facility type for Oakridge streets. These standards ensure existing to future adjacent land use can be accommodating, including retail employment centers within the cities. Based on the facts noted above, the proposed comprehensive plan and ordinance amendments are consistent with Oregon statewide planning goal number 9. Excuse me. Statewide planning goal number 11 is public facilities and services. Our findings is the TSP provides guidance for managing, operating, and improving the transportation system. A public facility providing multimodal accessibility. The TSP documents existing conditions and future need for the city's transportation system. Proposed improvements and implementation measures have been tailored as the means to meet the future needs and improve safety and increase efficiency of existing roadways. The TSP includes access spacing standards that balance the need to provide efficient travel for motorists with ability to access specific properties and destinations. Access management standards are designed to reduce congestions and accident rates and may lessen the need for constructing additional roadway capacity. This is outlined on table 13-3 of the Oakridge TSP draft. And of the TSP identifies the minimum and maximum public street intersections and minimum private access and spaces standards for streets in Oakridge. Proposed amendment to the Oakridge zoning code ordinance include new requirements for including transportation impact analysis as a part of land use applications in regards to new subdivisions, as well as access management and mobility standards for code audit and proposed amendments. That is outlined in Exhibit 12. The transportation impact analysis is intended to help the city staff to determine whether conditions are needed to protect and minimize impacts to and preserve intended functions of transportation facilities within the city. The TSP was guided by and developed to be consistent with current transportation goals and policies found in the comprehensive plan. In addition, goals and policies in the comprehensive plan are proposed to be updated to reflect the goals, projects, and objectives as well as direction of the project advisory committee. Based on the facts noted above, the proposed comprehensive plan and ordinance amendments are consistent with statewide planning goal number 11. So moving on, statewide planning goal number 12 is transportation. And the findings is the TSP provides a comprehensive long-term guide for city transportation improvements investing over a 20-year period. The TSP multimodal approach prioritizes projects which benefit driving, bicycling, walking, and transit use. Multiple projects identified will improve connectivity, safety, and mobility for drivers within the city. Many projects benefit non-motorized modes, including sidewalk and crossing projects to create seamless connections for pedestrians throughout the city, and biking projects to create an integrated network of bicycle lanes and marked on-street routes. Transit projects are identified that would enhance the quality and convenience for transit passengers. In addition, the transportation-related amendments to the comprehensive plan and zoning and land use ordinance will ensure the city's ability to implement the TSP. Amendments to the comprehensive plan include goals and policies which will guide future land use decisions and which reflect the TSP goals and objectives, which were collaboratively developed through the TSP updates process. Amendments to the Oakridge zoning code and land use ordinance provide additional standards to promote pedestrians and bicycle circulation, requirements for traffic impact studies, and ensure future amendments to the comprehensive plan, development code, or zoning map are consistent with the functions and classifications of the roadways in the TSP. Statewide planning goals 3 through 8, 10, and 13 through 19 are not applicable to this application. Excuse me. The following Oregon transportation plan policies have been considered by the city of Oakridge in the formation of the language contained within this request. The Oregon Transportation Plan, which is the state's long-range multimodal transportation plan. The OTP is an overarching policy document among a series of plans that together form the state's transportation system plan. A local TSP must be consistent with the applications of the OTP goals and policies, and the most pertinent OTP goals and policies are as follows. Policy 1.2 is equity, efficiency, and travel choices. Policy 2.1 is capacity and operating efficiencies. Policy 2.2 is management of assets. Policy 3.1 is an integrated and efficient freight system. Policy 3.2, moving people to support economic vitality. Policy 4.1 is environmental responsible transportation systems. Policy 5.1 is safety. Policy 7.1, coordinated transportation systems. And policy 7.3 is public involvement and consultation. 7.4 is environmental justice. And the findings that are proposed do meet the policies outlined by the Oregon Transportation System Plan. And included is the following statutes, rules, comprehensive plans, and provisions and implementing ordinance have been considered by the City of Oakridge in the formation of the language contained within its request. Oregon Administrative Rule 660, Division 12 is the transportation planning rules, and 66-12-005 through 0055. These sections of the TPR contain policies for preparing and implementing transportation system plans. And the findings, the 2020 TSP includes a review of existing transportation system performance, projections of community growth over the next 20-year period, and evaluation how the projected growth could change its system performance, and recommended list of projects by mode, and a financially constrained list to improve the transportation system within the constraints of the known funding likely to be available in the next 20 years as required by the TPR. The TSP was developed collaboratively among various public agencies, the community, project advisory committees, and project management team, which consisted of, again, city staff, ODOT, public, and consultants. And that is extent of my portion of the staff report.
You're up. At this point, we're going into commission discussion. Okay, I'd like to hear some thoughts, inputs. Yes.
Projection on overall transportation increases, let's say throughout the entire state of Oregon. I've heard projections could be 5% increase. I just wonder if what I heard is true. Can we expect dramatically more increase, or is 5% kind of a rule that they're saying overall transportation increase?
Do you have any input
I'm
on
sorry,
that?
I was reading the
Overall, say,
Overall,
increase in
transportation increase within the state.
Is being-
So like 5% is in the next 7 years.
and that's a projection.
That's what, I picked up as a projection. If there's anybody that would have more direct information on that.
Not specifically, I would imagine, or I guess we kind of hope, because we do want the state to grow some. We have plenty of room. I would imagine there's going to be an increase in transportation. Yes, Commissioner Speedo.
How much money is going to be involved in the city on this?
How much is the city going to be involved in financially? Well, I'm sorry.
On the Highway 58.
Depends on what they do initially. Do we know what our percentage of input? You're talking about if option one was fully.
Yeah, if we reduce it to 2 with the Senate.
I believe that's in your packet. It's great.
That's just our contribution toward it.
Yes.
Our sewer system runs down through there. And so we have to, I think I read in there that we have to be liable for our lighting along there. Any repairs of any sewer, water, or anything that runs under 58, the city would also have to be responsible. Do you have an idea what that be?
Not currently. We would have to TV the sewers to really get an idea on that. But that's not where our I&I is coming from, so I don't expect there to be huge problems with that. But as far as an exact or even close figure, I don't have anything prepared to provide that. So it's as far as giving figures on what it takes to install and repair sewer, water, there's just so many variables that it's very hard to say it's $100 per linear foot. If you were to start throwing numbers like that out there, you'll end up throwing wrong numbers. So it's better just to be on the safe side and say we would have to put research in to find out.
I know it's driving up down 58, we've got a few sinkholes and a few repairs that have been done, but we're still getting some more sinkholes.
Potholes or sinkholes? Potholes or sinkholes? A sinkhole is a pretty major.
Yeah.
So
there's sinkholes.
And could you
One was repaired up by the church.
could you pull the mic a little closer to you?
Pardon?
Could you pull the mic a little closer to you? Where people on the Zoom platform are having a hard time hearing you.
Okay, sorry about that. One of the sinkholes was up there by the church, between the church and that hot place there on the north side of the road. And then repaired that. I noticed when you're going down 58, you hit definite. It's, if you're in the right-hand lane, you hit definite places where the pavement is sunk. Is that because the road's given out underneath, or is it there, or sewer system is going out?
Not enough information to really answer that quite. I mean, it could be multiple things, but if it were to be our sewer system, we would see a slowdown in the flow in that area, and we have not seen any slowdown in the flow in that area. So I highly doubt that it's our sewer system that's causing that sinking. But without sitting a TV down there, I don't have a solid answer. But again, I don't think so, just by the flows.
As I gathered from the workshops, the time to do any repairs, if we need any, would be when they did a major configuration.
Until 26, right? But they planned on doing anything?
I don't think, this is a plan, this is not a schedule.
Yeah. But that would be the first time they could actually go in and do it. Would be 2026, I think is what you said in the last meeting. But first of all, we have to have the funding together to do that too, right?
If we were to
put our amount of funding in.
You're just referring to our infrastructure. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It wouldn't necessarily be all out of the Oakridge City budget. It could be a combination of several or numerous grants.
Okay. And another thing too, I was going over a bunch of packets in here, a bunch of people in, that sent in that wasn't even registered, or nobody spoke about them. Just on their behalf, there are quite a few in here that against it, and I only seen 3 out of a stack of papers like this that were for it. Everybody else was against the 58. How come they wasn't read into?
Because those weren't provided for the public hearing. As were the ones that I read in today were provided for the public hearing.
Okay, so where do these go?
Those go for your guys' information, city council's information. That information was shared with ODOT and the consultants, and that is partially what got us to where we are today with the recommended options.
So were these people explaining that this would be anything for the for or against when they filled these out? Or would they just fill them out thinking that it would?
When they filled those out, there was no expectation that it would be read into any meeting. The expectation was that it would reach the desks of the Planning Commission and City Council, and that it has done.
Okay.
Commissioners, Spock. Let's talk about the First Street reconfiguration. Yes, sir.
I think what's proposed out there, we have to get rid of that.
Try again.
We have to get rid of the parallel parking. It's a danger up there for people. We need to.
I mean,
against the curve.
the angled parking.
Angled parking, yes, angled parking. I've been up there a few times with my big pickup, my side by side, and if you pull in there, it's very difficult to see, to make sure if there's a bigger car
You're just kind of edging out, hoping you're not going to get hit. You need to get rid of that angle parking out there. As far as bike lanes, like all the other guys said, there's plenty of room up there. It isn't like Highway 58. We haven't got a bunch of people running up and down First Street. I think there's plenty of room up there for our pedestrians and their bikes up there. But we do need to get rid of the angle parking.
We're in agreement? Yes, sir.
Not necessarily in agreement with Audie, but again, it's about the angle parking.
Mhm.
If you're looking for people,
I'm sorry.
okay, it's about angle parking.
Can you pull your microphone down there?
And push a button, turn on.
Is that it? Yeah.
Now you're live.
Going over this numerous times and thinking, yes, problem with angle parking, coming back out, vision, what have you. But yet, I still go back to why and how you got driver's license and how you were taught to drive the driver's manual. It is noted and said, oh, we can help them get that license. Always look around. Always look around. Our speed limit is 25. Our density is pretty low. Our traffic patterns are pretty slow, measured in hours, short hours of where traffic patterns increase a little bit. I am not necessarily in favor of parallel parking and losing over 32 parking spots per street.
No, we'd be losing 32 if we took out parking all along the one side, correct?
No, we will not be losing 32.
Correct. We wouldn't be losing 32. We would lose some. I don't know the exact number.
Bicycling, again, density, speed, biking impact, and time allotment where congestion, not congestion, if you call that in Oakridge, 3 parcel. Intersection congestion. I don't find enough leverage to pick up area or strike off and take off a separate lane. Again, bikers, I don't know if it's correct to say bikers are traffic, meaning they can occupy the traffic lane, not necessarily. Debate on that.
They have I think they have the same rights as any motorist. Might makes right sometimes is the rule, so want to avoid, but they have the right to be on the roads. Bike lanes are primarily a safety zone for them.
Okay. Safe routes for students, I definitely believe that yes, as much as we could, we should offer safe benefits on First Street, routes down through the school, which means sidewalks are there. Is there a possibility of sidewalk, bike pedestrian lane? I don't know if that is a feasibility to enlarge sidewalks large enough to do that. Concern of pedestrian crossings. For pedestrian here in the plan, it says increase pedestrian visibility. I don't know how one would do that, other than, you know, I know the schools, they have very much under control. So, in other words, what I'm saying is that I believe with driver attention, the speed, you have a driver's license, you're told that driving matters. That's just some changes for sure would enhance pedestrian and bicycle traffic safety, what have you. But I'm not consistent with overhauling or spreading other paint or losing almost every angle parking between columns, a little extra congestion, other streets.
Good. Spartan, you have some thoughts?
Eugene, they have a
I
bicycle.
need to get that a little closer.
Usually they have a bicycle lane down the middle of the road in some areas where main congestion is, or the bicycles are actually going down the same lane of travel as cars. And I don't know if you've ever been down there on a school day where they're all riding their bicycles down the middle of the road in the car. You can't get through there. So are we talking just about the First Street?
Yes, right now. It's easier to separate the two.
I know when you pull into the parking at the post office, and you try to back out and you've got a truck next to you. People go through there 25 miles an hour. When they're backing out and you've got a pickup truck next to you and you go to back out, they can't see you. You can't see them because you've got a pickup next to you. So you got this much of your vehicle sticking out of the road and someone's coming at you. You got about enough room not to hit you or them the other lane. So I kind of like to see that area change maybe to parallel parking, at least because the post office has a good sized parking area. You can pull into the parking area there. And some of these businesses along there only have the parking up front. They don't have the parking like the post office does, or the banks, or some of the other areas. That's about the only problem I've ever had pulling out on First Street is I think that's post office. And it can be dangerous.
Are you for or against the installing bike lanes?
I haven't really seen a lot of people using First Street for bicycles on a normal day coming and going. And I don't know if the kids would really ride their bicycles to school, or I know for the grade school, they've got some bicycle places where they can put their bikes. But most of the high school kids are a car, or they have their parents drop them off. So kind of on the fence with it. You know, what would make it safe for the kids to get to and from school? I know that bridge overpass that they put in goes over the train tracks. That might be a good place for them to be able to come across and ride if we could somehow set that up, you know. I don't know. I know we have a lot of, during the summer months, we have a lot of bicycle people come here to ride, or to ride the trails. And it'd be kind of nice to have some place for them to ride, but it's not year round.
Well, it's kind of a big one or the other. If we put bike lanes in as proposed, we would lose almost all parking on one side of East First, and residents who park out front or have guests, it's going to minimize or take away a lot of their parking. I know that's been a concern that I've seen in a lot of the comments that came through to us. I feel that because we are 25 miles an hour and we have good visibility, our First Street doesn't meander and have curves. We don't have a lot of trees, so there's almost always very good visibility of who's in the street. And I have yet to witness, not out there all the time, but in my amount that I am up and down First Street, it seems that everybody seems to share with the bikes equally well.
I've seen most of the bike traffic that we get in summer months, so whether they're using the trails that go up Salmon Creek, like Salmon Creek Road and out that way, they'll catch the trail and ride on the trail.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know.
My biggest concern with not putting in the bike lane is the safe routes to school. Should something happen in the future and they go, well, geez, there was no bike lanes. It's kind of either you are or you're not.
So, in other words, if we don't adopt this or some kind of that now, we have to wait another 20 years to do it again.
No, I don't think, not necessarily. This is a plan. Plans can be altered, amended, changed. Priorities can change based on, funding. Somebody comes down and says, Oakridge, we're going to give you this big pot of money. You need to, what transportation issues do you have? We would probably look at the one highest priority that fit with that amount of funding. But yes, things can change.
Well, they said something about the grants and money that we could receive, but there's nothing laid out that says, yes, we can get those grants. And if the city has to come up with the funds, match whatever they do, or what we have, when we can't get grants, then what happens?
Well, that's kind of a question in that, if the sun doesn't come up tomorrow, it's a what if, and certainly that's a question. But grants do come up and they do go to cities, or cities are eligible for them. And usually the city matches are very low, usually around 10%.
10, 15, 25.
So,
but real quick comment on the grants is, they're competitive. And one of the things that we won't have to be competitive is a plan. And without a plan, because that's really a large piece of having a transportation system plan is when we go to write grants, a lot of our grant funders want to see public involvement. So this is the public involvement piece of, yes, we've already, we've vetted this with the public. Here's, the plan that went through. That is a large portion of this plan is for potential grant funding. If we don't have a plan, we won't have a grant. So is I guess really what I wanted to say there, because if you're going to be competitive against other communities, we have to, they're not guaranteed.
And the grants are to fix our streets, or all of our streets are in trouble.
I'm sorry?
The grants are to fix our streets, like around the town.
They can be.
They can, yes. There are grants for that. But as far as you're talking safe routes to school, bike lanes, that type of stuff, those are highly competitive.
Okay.
And there's no guarantee that you get them.
Yes, sir.
Another thing that involves First Street, part of the plan, safety. ADA curb entering will, how can I say this? That be paid attention to regardless of whether we have a parking plan or whatever. In other words, I'm asking, we have an aging population, and ADA would be a very serious.
I think that's something that city department has already been, there's very few that don't have a curb cut and the ADA ramps in.
Right, most of them do need to be addressed.
And that's something that's going to happen regardless. I'm sorry, ma'am. The public section is over. I'm sorry.
I just want to ask, who?
No. I'm sorry, ma'am. Public section is over, has been closed. Thank you.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
No problem. I'm sorry, but we're in discussion with the commissioners here. That's I think a federal requirement. So as they come up, those curb cuts get made and ADA accessibility is required.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Yes, Commissioner.
Anyway, the transportation system plan is meant to be a flexible execution. of those projects.
Yeah, a little closer to the microphone, please.
And with that being in mind, I think that the plan should include all options. And when it comes to project selection and definition, that then we decide whether we want to do items within that particular thing. So with that going forward, I think that option one provides us with the most comprehensive detail for doing a project all in. I mean, Cadillac project would be parallel parking and bike lanes. Now, if we go to execute that project, then the items in that would be dependent upon funding. So for my benefit, I think that I'd rather be looking at everything than looking for something. So I think that I'm in favor of option one. That's all.
Okay. Commissioner Reinhardt, you're up.
I'm up. Well, I'm definitely in favor of option one. I've on 2 occasions in the last, it's been a year, in the last year, someone's large brown pickup truck was sitting in front of Uptown. And we had an older woman who was parked next to him, to his truck, and she had come out of the Commissioner Bobby's office and was trying to back out. I was trying to leave, and I realized she couldn't get out because she couldn't see anything. And it was a weekend on a Friday, and there were quite a few cars coming down there for whatever reason. So I had to step out in the street and basically help let her know when she could back out. And that's happened twice there that I've been there. And so I'm definitely in favor of getting rid of the angled parking. I think that, you know, we can talk about driving rules and all that stuff, but you know, if you're able to drive and you're in your 80s and stuff, and you've got a large truck that happens to be sitting next to you in an angled parking spot, and you're trying to get out, you're going to have a problem, and especially if you're in a small car. So I'm all for getting rid of that angled parking. It just doesn't make sense. As for bike lanes, I'm on the fence on bike lanes. I do believe we need to have a protected area where kids can get back and forth to school and be fairly safe. But I've been in Eugene numerous times where I've seen cars driving down the green lane of a bicycle lane, and because they wanted to turn right or something, and it's I don't know. It's just that's a safety issue but it's one of those things where it happens and you just don't, the odds are you're not going to have a policeman there to see it happen. So it's something to be looked at. But I still believe you got to have a place where kids know that it's safe to be on their way to and from school. And that's my opinion of that. So I'm in favor of option one.
As I mentioned earlier, from Crestview down to Hazel would lose all parking on the south side of that street, which is primarily residences along there. And so I have a difficult time saying you're not going to have your parking on there. From Hazel down to Beach, it's wide enough that if we go to parallel parking on both sides of the road, there's still sufficient room to have bicycle lanes. Am I correct on that? And again, I'm going to say that my concern is safe routes to school. if there was a way to, I don't know if from Crestview down to Hazel, if the commercial street could be designated as a bike route to get a safe route for kids along there. I'm not sure if we're way off out of bounds on that. From Hazel to, basically, I'm of the feeling that bikes seem to share First Street, East First Street, well with the traffic we have at 25 miles an hour. So I'm more in favor of getting rid of the diagonal parking, going to all parallel parking. I'm not sure I feel we really need bike lanes because of there are places that they go down to 20 miles an hour in some cities. You know, reducing the speeds on the highway is not really an option. That's ODOT's call. And one thing they don't want to do is stop traffic. They want to keep it moving. Any other comments? Yes, sir.
I'm in full agreement with you. I don't think we need bike lanes down First Street. It's wide enough, it's straight, you can see for miles. Anybody can see it. If we have parallel parking, then that's not going to block the view of anybody pulling out. It's not going to block the view of them seeing anybody coming up and down the road. I believe we're not a busy enough street up there on First Street to really have bike lanes up there. And like you said, they can come over commercial and run the full thing, and then come into any of the businesses on the side streets and come across. We have just a couple businesses up there, really.
Well, bike lanes are the future. They're going to be everywhere at some point. It's a safety issue. It's a sharing the road issue. It's regulatory. I think at some point that's going to be everywhere, even the smallest little towns. But so yes, Kevin, what you said, go all in, and you can always not do that portion of that plan. Or is that an option?
Was that a yes, Rick? No. Okay.
Anybody else? Yes,
I
Kevin.
just wanted to say that, I think that from a funding standpoint, whether or not we implement bike lanes or whether or not we reduce parking on the south side of First Street is something that we can do when we go into planning for project definition. I don't think that it's probably fruitful now to start defining the project.
I think that has some implications. However, just a second. Putting in the bike lanes, saying that we're going to get rid of all parking along the south side. That's going to scare a lot of people. Like I said, I'd like to see a modification instead of getting rid of parking on the south side is.
I agree with that standpoint, but that would be something that we could address in project definition.
Mm-hmm. Yes, Lauren.
Also part of the plan, TSP on First Street is that consideration of commercial streets for bicycles. to me, I could envision commercial street being, okay, bike route. I do not envision people using commercial streets generally. I mean, you know, where are all the lights? They're up in First Street.
But at least we could say we have them. You didn't use it and you got hit.
Yeah. To make it available as the bike.
Maybe kind of I'm thinking long-term liability issue.
Yeah, that's something to consider. The complexion of hometown is referred to, downtown as it's referred to.
We just lost your mic.
With buildings, and there are a few empty lots there.
Mm-hmm.
And knowing that, and I see one something, you know, business below and residence above. There's a probability there will be density there. There will be more and more buildings filling those empty lots, and the density may increase. That area, traffic may increase in that area. So, yeah, there's something seriously to look forward to for traffic control purposes.
We could actually look at other traffic calming measures in the uptown area. There's a large jurisdiction.
Yeah, in the future. As I said, the plan is a 20-year plan, but it's going out to like 40 years. Look into the 40-year future.
Mm-hmm.
I'll see, let's say I may make it to the 38th year. See how that goes.
And most of us won't be around in 20 years, except for the youngsters. Yes, sir.
Yes, I noticed it's been in the past. Is there any regulation on, I see different places where the power company or phone company, whatever it is, comes in and they put in new telephone poles. At that time, they should be required to put in a ramp. I know down here on School Street, they put it in and they put a curb there, didn't put a ramp. Who oversees that? And shouldn't that be something that goes through our city first? That when they do something like that, they're required to put in an ADA ramp off on that curb instead of putting back the regular curb.
Yeah, we have a running gun who did that.
So do they have to check with the city first, or do they just go in and do it and get it done and get out?
A little bit of both. I mean, yes, they're supposed to check, they're supposed to pull a public improvement permit, but that doesn't mean they always do.
So that'd be up to the code enforcement officer if we get one, right?
Yeah.
Can you go back on any of those that's been done that way?
I don't have an answer for you for that, for this meeting.
Yeah, we're kind of off subject here. Any other discussion concerning the East First Corridor?
Once we commit to going all out on it, we have choices that we can make where we don't want the bike lanes, we don't have to put them in.
I think that's,
I'm sorry.
if we vote in option one.
Option one.
Mm-hmm.
And later on, can we say, well,
We don't want the bike lane.
Right, you could.
We can do that.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
and in the meantime, maybe be able to rework the plan to make it more amenable. Okay.
If we option two limits us to doing any of those things.
Right.
Okay.
Hey, Highway 58 corridor. Commissioner Hoag.
I can, as the vast majority of people are very much in favor of speed control on Highway 58. And that is just deciding what methods to use for speed control. To me, the idea of doing the highway diet, trimming down, allowing pedestrian, bicyclist safety, increasing awareness of what is around you, the accessibility to the businesses by turning lanes here and there on both sides, left and right. All the strict restrictions going way up and down, you turn left and right. Definite speed control, pedestrian crossing, all these enhancements for the area. In a chance, when the state comes through, re-modernizes this area and makes a nice, clean, parcel of highway there, can really help the appearance of the city. That's on a superficial note, but I'm saying, along with that, the practicality of doing a road diet to me is very, very sensible. And to say it will not cause a little extra wait time at an intersection would be, I mean, it will cause a little extra wait time. However, not that much of an inconvenience. I believe if a person comes up to a signal or a stop sign or an intersection and demands, I want to be on here immediately, that's going to cool hearted. You have to accept that other people share the road. They pay the tax, they have a right to use the road. The diet plan, as I see it, right now, can really be an asset to this city. Many of the complaints that are together will be solved. Will go away, speed control, access to buildings, safety, all of these things will be solved by the diet. So yes, I believe it.
Mr. Goldman, I think he's next.
Just one question that I'd like to clarify is that have clarified, I should say, is that currently 58 meets the minimum right-of-way requirements and no additional land is needed for reconfiguration.
That's correct, isn't it? Can you there was somebody, excuse me, there was somebody, oh, I'm sorry. That's correct. There is sufficient right-of-way.
Yeah, there's sufficient right-of-way to accommodate the configuration and the right-of-way already.
But they wouldn't be taking any additional from what exists.
We would not need to take additional right-of-way with the road diet.
So the road as we see it now, width-wise, would be staying the same, generally.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Another thing is too is say we adopt to the road diet and then we have the election year coming up this year. And we get a new council in, can council change their mind and say, no, we're not going to do this because you said they could do it to First Street? Would that be also to 58 or not? Or if we vote to put 58 in, is that locked in?
It would.
The plan can be amended.
The plan can be amended. So yes, if we go all in and it's decided later that we want to modify it, can be modified. But we need to have a plan to start with. That's what we're trying to do here today.
So I think I read in there that they could just put up some signage and and a couple other things in here that would not reduce our roads, but I think blinking road signs that this is your speed limit both into the town, that would also help reduce it. And I don't think that would be a cost to us. I think that's would be on the state. I think I read it.
No, I believe we would have to pay for those.
I believe so.
And I believe that's also part of the roadway reconfiguration is warning signs at each end of the town.
I myself, I'm against the road guy. And I don't think there'll be any benefit for the town. I think it's going to hinder our traffic flow. It's going to hinder our businesses. We've already heard from one business person up here, and she's got her own parking lot there. And I don't know, you know, I know we don't have constituents, but still, this is a transportation plan. It's not changing codes or anything else. This is the future of Oakridge, so we should be listening to our citizens. And I've heard a lot of opposition, and in this packet right here, there's a lot of opposition, and I only found 3 of this whole packet in here for the road guy. Whether that's there or not, but I don't think it'll benefit us. That's all I'll say on that.
Commissioners.
I was here for 25 years, and during the summer months, getting out on Hill Street is almost impossible sometimes. And that's with 2-lane traffic. The idea of trying to get in and out of businesses and getting out on Highway 58 just off of Hill Street alone, with that coming down off the mountain and everything going down from 2 lanes, opening up and going through town. That's the problem with the truckers, and they're coming off the hill. We have to deal with that hill, which is a lot of these towns that they've shown us are straight throughs. And we have to deal with the mountain. Everybody comes down off that mountain, they're following the trucks going 25, 30 miles an hour. By the time you get to the bottom, because I've been on that hill too, you're irritated. You want to get around them because they held you up for an hour on the mountain. So that's why they're doing passing, going through town to get around the trucks. So,
Basically, we're passing lane.
yeah. But I think if we have a situation where we can put up some kind of speed signs, slow them down before they get into town, get the trucks to get into one lane, let the people go by, keep the truck traffic, maybe like on the highways, we have a truck traffic speed limit that is lower than, on the highways than automobile traffic. Maybe something like that. Slow the trucks down so that the other cars, autos can go past them without having to speed.
Sounds good the way you say it, but it's pretty convoluted proposition, and I'm not sure.
Did they look into that at all? Maybe.
Having 2 speed limits?
Yeah, just slow the trucks down.
Well, actually, truckers are some of the best drivers in the country.
Right.
It's everybody else who zips around them,
right,
and they're not looking for the pedestrian out there halfway out in the middle of the street.
Right.
So the people say, well, there's 4,000 trucks go through town every day, which
we get a lot of truck drivers.
that's fine. As far as I'm concerned, they're the good guys. They're not the problem.
Right. It's not the truck. I'm
So-
saying that the trucks slow people down because they have to slow down on the mountain. And there really isn't very many places on Highway 58 to pass You get a whole block of people following one of the trucks down the hill. And then you get to spots where, and that road's dangerous anyway from now.
I don't want our town to be known as a passing lane.
Right.
Because then you have children and people out there. I want them to stay in line, and if they have to slow down through town, that's what I feel they need to do.
And that's part of the reason why they kind of gone to this, where they want it to be narrowed down to one lane.
Safety.
Right.
Two people are side by side, one's in front of the other. The pedestrian doesn't know, or they don't see a pedestrian catty corner from them because you have a car. And if say everyone's jockeying for position and passing, rather than being in line, waiting their turn, seeing what's in Oakridge. If you're in the center lane, Dairy Queen goes by, oh, missed it. But if you're in one lane, as I've seen in many of the towns where they have done the road reconfiguration, you can pull off because there's only one line of traffic. At 35 miles an hour, we're not getting wrecks because of people tailgating in this town. But it's much more dangerous for the handicapped, the people crossing. We can't put more lights. They're not going to allow us to stop traffic any more than is admissible. But we need to slow them down. And I want them to slow down and see our town. If they create a long line.
We can implement this for a couple of months before they actually do it.
Mm-hmm. Yes, sir.
It seems to me the one, two stumbling blocks of disagreement with the plan or implementing the plan are, I have to wait in the intersection, which is a personal. And the other one is don't waste our taxes, which is, but to, maybe I'm getting off the track here, tell me if I did. But to stand so firm on these two things and overlook the benefits that are to the city projects. Mention again the sidewalk safety, bicycle safety, wheelchair safety being enhancement, and a new roadway which is very, very well managed, very, very well controlled, with beginning access. It's like the benefits so far outweigh if a person sits at an intersection 30 seconds more, or a few dollars and cents of fuel taxes down to improvements. To me, the broad picture is let's enhance something that has been and is beginning to more and more accelerate deterioration. And this, yeah, and this one I don't want to be, I'll track it to me, so obviously benefits are so obvious.
Yeah,
yes, sir.
She brought up a point here earlier about getting in and out of traffic if it goes down to 2 lanes with the center. Most of our traffic through here is 1 trucking and 2 RVers. The big time traffic, trailers, motorhomes pulling trailers, pickups or cars pulling ATVs, and to try to pull out 35, 40-foot motorhome with the RV trailer on the back of it. If they pull off to stop at one of our restaurants here, they're not going to be able to get out. And especially the Dairy Queen gets a lot of traffic. And they're parking on School Street and everything else. And they can come around and get out there right between that and the gas station. But if they have to come back across that road, they're not going to be able to get across that road.
Without waiting.
Right, without a light. And like you said, you can't get another light. You know, I know a place that's got less, let's see, how do I put this? They've got, I think, 5 stoplights, and they're a shorter distance between the end of their town and the start of their town. Down southern, K Junction, they've got them down there. And I've talked to a few people down there, and they says, even with the stoplights, it slowed their traffic down, but they've got people backed up both ends of town, and there's no traffic flow. And the people that are around there, because that's the main corridor that runs down through to Crescent City, just like here was the main corridor that ran up to 97. The traffic went back and forth, and then the people, when they went on that road back, and the people down there, the businesses or the, what do you call, just driving the trucks and trailers and stuff like that through their backhoes and stuff, they're having a real hard time with it. It's just sometimes it's impossible to get out on the road unless you happen to be at one of the stoplights. So you know, for the sake of our citizens of Oakridge, yes, I'd like to see some sidewalks, some bicycle lanes, but the reduction down to 2 lanes with the center turn lane, I think is just the wrong way to go. It's, and that's just my opinion.
Yes, sir.
I can't imagine the concept of free flowing unlimited traffic through a city that probably will be growing, being discovered all the time by people, entrepreneurs, real estate hucksters, what have you. To satisfy, you would have to take an incredible amount of private land to satisfy all of the desires and wishes of 4 lanes with. And I don't know if anybody's in the mood to be, you know, taking so much private land in order to develop the dream of highway 58. But to achieve that dream, let's say right now we're spending, you know, some millions of dollars to achieve that dream. Double that expense. I mean, just a visionary to please everything, everybody to double the expenditure possible and make even our cities competitive by we own utilities. It's nice that everybody could be pleased, but it's not going to happen. I don't think. It's waiting in traffic. It's waiting in traffic. You got the license. You chose to drive. You know, this is part of it. For more enhancements of the city, I think there are certain understandings that you commit to and agree to and accept.
Okay. Well, we need we're at that stage.
I have a question on that.
Oh, yes.
Is the proposal for Highway 58, is option 1, is that a pilot? Or are we talking about a permanent solution, or is this a pilot?
You guys.
Yes, it wasn't specified.
Well, as described in project numbers.
Yes. On the Highway 58. Our recommendation is either one of these or with edits, with our own input.
Right.
Yes.
I would basically say that I'm in favor of the road reconfiguration for Highway 58. If it was a pilot program that included from the west end of Oakridge to the east end at the OIP entrance, and that we would do this pilot for 1 year so that the citizens of Oakridge would see this configuration, a temporary configuration, let's say, but you would see it in all 4 seasons. So you'd know what it looks like and how it acts in the winter, summer, spring, fall. You would have a full year to see how this is going to affect that gets us through all of the holidays, all of the summer traffic, gets you through everything. You get to see the reconfiguration in every seasonal change we go through. Now, given that we might have a mild winter and we don't have snowmageddon, right? But we'll still, still have cold, ice. And I would be totally in favor of this if we did it for 1 year and let the citizens see it full year, every season. Because to do it for a couple of months, it's going to tell you nothing. It's going to tell you, oh, it works great in summer, but it's not going to tell you what happens in winter when it's snowing or it's raining. 45 years ago, I was here, and I can tell you, I remember rain here that you simply stopped driving. You just stopped on the road until it quit raining because it was so heavy. And so I don't know that you can hit every one of those situations, but you would have a year to see what it really looks like. And I'm most concerned about what it would look like in winter. Because you're not going to have all the campers and the RVs, as many campers and RVs cruising through here, but you're going to have all of us trying to get down to Ray's to pick up our Christmas turkey and whatever else we got to do. And that would be my proposal. That would be something I would sign up for. And that's all I got to say.
Yes.
I didn't think I would have that much of an introduction.
No.
I thought that originally when we were discussing this, that if we entered into a pilot project and we liked it, it would just stay there. Is that true?
I don't believe so.
Not necessarily.
Because a pilot project would just be paint.
It wouldn't be a complete restripe, it would just be pylon.
Well, I know there was concern at one point that some of the people indicated that if we're going to do a pilot program, that it should include striping rather than pylons. Pylons makes it look like a temporary situation, construction, and it gives a different look and feel to the motorists coming through than having it striped. Did you get that, what we were trying to look at that point?
Well, the plan is not specific on the exact method of the pilot project. In concept, I would think it would be primarily with restriping. There could be some pylons, although hearing your idea of having it for a full year and having pylons, I know that one of the issues that will come up is how do we maintain it, and in particular, how do we plow it? If we have pylons, plowing it is a problem. And also making sure that the lane delineation is clear, even with the snow on it. So those are the kinds of issues that would have to be thought out. But the pilot project, would be primarily a combination of striping with other some type of temporary marking like a pylon, and would only include the restriping. It wouldn't include the the reconstruction of the sidewalks, all the other things. So you wouldn't get the full benefit of the road diet, but you would be able to see how it operationally, how it affected traffic, and in particular, how much congestion you had, what types of difficulties you had turning on or off the highway.
And with that, is there a time restraint on the highway?
There's not a time restraint. One of the challenges of doing the pilot is we want to do a pilot when we're fairly certain that we have the money to actually do the project. No point in doing a pilot and then having it go away and having a 10-year gap between the pilot and the actual project. So we want to have the prospect that we have the funding in the pipeline, but at the same time, you know, a pilot project might result in a lack of support for the project. And so in that case, you know, having funding that we have to reallocate, I mean, we certainly have a sufficient supply of other projects that we could do if the pilot wasn't supported.
Well, then it would be conceivable that the pilot could go through 4 seasons.
So yes, it's conceivable, or that it could be out there several years, perhaps, between the gap between when it gets implemented and when the construction funding gets finalized and those plans are finalized. And so that would have to be part of the discussion. If it were functioning well, people liked it, then it might make sense to leave that pilot in place until the construction project came along. If there were problems or issues with doing that, we might have to take it away before the construction project came along.
And currently, what is the expected kickoff if you were to initial the pilot? How many years out are you?
That's a very good question. To scope and fund any project takes us a good 3 or 4 years. So really, we'd be 3 or 4 years out before we implemented a pilot project. And that's if the stars align and that funding pipe, it seems like we're going to be able to do the actual project in the foreseeable future, then we would start accelerating the idea of the pilot project at that time.
Yes, sir.
Another question, could we put it to council to put this on the ballot for the...
That's not our job.
Okay, that's what I want to know is, can we make that a recommendation to council?
You can personally, but not as a commission.
Not as commission, okay. Just ask.
We have to, our job is to give them our recommendation.
Okay, thank you.
Any other discussion on either East First Street or the highway? I'd like to hear a motion, recommended motion, number 1 for East First Street. Somebody like to either read one of the motions, if they agree, or modify it?
I'll make the motion.
Okay. Get your mic on.
Huh?
Make sure.
Mic on.
Oh, for heaven's sake. It bites me again. We're done. I move we approve the Oakridge Transportation System Plan with East First Street Corridor Refinement Project as currently proposed in the TSP on page 40 and figure 318.
Do I hear a second?
I'll second it.
Discussion. Yes.
This particular council.
I'm sorry?
Our next step is then to send it to council.
Yes.
Vote on this. Just for my information, does council have the capability of fully understanding what this?
Did you quit that?
I keep turning it off, then it
Don't turn it off. Leave it on. I'd like to listen to your heavy breathing over there.
Sorry about
Yeah,
that.
no, my question is, council have a full understanding of this project for First Street?
I assume they do. That's not a question we get to ask. They're the elected officials.
We will have a talk with council, maybe council?
Nope.
Okay. It's just right there.
What our recommendations tonight is what.
Full understanding is- Right.
Mm-hmm.
So, for the rest of the audience, which option of First Street are you proposing? First one or second?
First one.
First one.
Council.
Another motion?
No, we still have one on, we have a motion on the floor. We have a, I guess we're ready to go to vote on this, unless there's any other comments, discussion on the motion that was read. Okay, hearing none. Jackie, can we take a vote?
Yes. Commissioner Hoag,
Aye.
Commissioner Custer,
Aye.
Commissioner Partain,
Aye.
Commissioner Spleedoff,
Nay.
Commissioner Gobelman,
Aye.
Commissioner Weimholt,
Aye.
and who seconded this motion?
Yes.
Who seconded the motion?
Commissioner Gobelman.
Thank you.
All right, this time we'd like to entertain a recommended motion for the Highway 58 plan.
I'm done. I'll do it. I move we approve. Let me go here. I move we approve the Oakridge Transportation System Plan with option 1, a road configuration as described in project numbers R-6A and R-6B.
Do you want to include a Oakridge?
Oh, yeah. Is that when we would
That's
do
an
it?
edit, yes.
And it's an edit to this. It would be a 1-year trial plan to implement 1 year after we started.
You got all that enough, Jackie.
Did you get the 1 year, Jackie?
I did.
So just to clarify for the audience, R6A, R6B in the motion is a pilot project, maybe completed prior to permanent installation. So.
Okay, do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Commissioner Gobelman seconds. Discussion. Yes, sir.
To the ODOT, the paint plan for the city, when 58 goes through, could that be in coordination with, you're already building a more expansive approach to Oakridge from 58, you're enhancing lanes, passing lanes.
There is a passing lane project in the current statewide transportation improvement program to add a passing lane just west of town.
Yeah, from the west.
No, towards the west.
Oh, towards,
Yeah,
oh, okay.
for westbound traffic.
What I'm asking is there a possibility that this painting and restriping could be incorporated after the passing lanes have already been built?
That would make sense, as suggested. wouldn't be something we would do. That's a bad joke.
Next time,
Yeah. It would make sense. I hesitate to explicitly link the two of them together because of the challenges. But as a practical matter, the westbound passing lane project is already in our improvement program as a funded project. While the pilot project wouldn't be implemented until we had a good prospect of funding for the full project, as well as the, at some point, we're going to have to repay Highway 58 and Oakridge regardless. So those things have to come together. And so given the lack of identified funding and the lead time that it takes to implement a pilot project, I'm highly confident that the westbound passing lane project will already be underway if not completed before the pilot project comes on.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, let's call for a vote.
Commissioner Gobelman,
aye.
Commissioner Custer,
Aye.
Commissioner Hoke,
Aye.
Commissioner Weimholt,
Aye.
Commissioner Spleedoff,
Nay.
Commissioner Partain,
Motion carries. Do we still need to do, okay. We're
No,
done.
that was just an option that you guys, just so you guys were
We
aware.
went way off. Okay. Are there any discussion items?
I have none.
Announcements?
I have none.
That? Hmm? No, no. That would be if we did something totally different. Gotcha. With that, we are adjourned. Thank you for attending, and those of you online as well, thank you.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jackie.
You're welcome.
And I'm telling you, that magnetic personality is getting to me.
Say again, after running around with a metal strap, dragging on your foot there.
Strap.
Go to the carpet first.
Yeah.
When you're doing East First Street, if you want to consider a bike lane, don't you think they're more feasible right in front of the school and maybe right in front of the bank and right in front of the school? You forget Cog Wild's right next to the Banner Bank. And they, on weekends, and they have scheduled meets. There's a lot of bicyclists come to town that do congregate in and around that area. I think that if you're going to put bike lanes in, that would be the most feasible area.
Right, but one thing to keep in mind is the plan is really not for Cog Wild, and it's not for the bicyclists that are coming in on mountain bikes. It's for our own people, exactly. And that's one of the things that at the beginning, which was kind of we had to delineate, was the bicycle portion of the plan has really got nothing to do with mountain bikers. It really doesn't. It's got everything to do with our
own people trying to use them as well.
Right.
Because we do have
Bike lanes are going to be everywhere.
there are times you know as well as I do, they're all over the street.
They are,
there.
yes.
And the other guy
Well, I've been in town a number of times where somebody's stopped in the middle of the street talking to somebody, and I just either go around on your way.
But that is the truth, you know, as far as
Okay, we'll talk later.